joining Rob Nato, Jim O'Brien, Norm Goupel, Dulcie LaPoma, myself, Andrea Folsom. We're also joined by Superintendent Mike Flynn, Business Administrator Michelle Clark, and our student representatives, Noah Ephraim and Flo Dapis, as well as Matt Stone, our technical director behind the scenes. So let's go ahead and start with Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Happy snowy Tuesday night. So to start things off, we have two sets of minutes to approve this evening. Is there a motion to approve our regular school board meeting minutes from December 19th, 2023?
So moved.
Second. In unison.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the non-public school board meeting minutes from December 19th, 2023?
So
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. With that, we very quickly come to our first public comment portion of the evening. Public comment is welcome. We ask you to keep it to 3 minutes and share your name and address for the record. There will be an option to have a second public comment at the end of the meeting, so if you don't say anything now, you're welcome to come up and speak at the end. Is there any public comment this evening? Not seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. All right, and we are on to student rep comments. How's it going, guys? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So what's happening? Right now we have finals for the high school. Next week.
Wow.
Big week, as you can imagine. Everyone's a little stressed out, but we're doing
it like it starts on Wednesday, then we got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday too. So it's like a little split up. I don't know. And then we don't have school the Tuesday, Thursday after, so it's like a nice break.
Yeah. So right now we have finals. Footloose, the musical,
It's
which
production week.
it's production
So
week.
they're all walking out of school in their costume after school today. It was really funny. They got dress rehearsal today.
I believe there's a show Friday at 7.
Yep.
That's today. Saturday at 2, and then I think Saturday at 7.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going, so I'm looking forward to that. Tomorrow there's a conference called Civics and Civility.
I think we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Before, but
That's tomorrow, so
we will be there.
Flo and I will be.
No, it's on Thursday.
I'm so messed up with the days right now. Yeah, so that's Thursday, and we'll be attending that. Basketball is going very well for the boys and girls teams. The boys are 5-3, I want to say 4-3, and the girls are 7-0. So they're killing it. And then
Skiing got canceled because there was no snow, but the Alpine team has had 2 races, and I think they've won both of them. And there will be a math meet tomorrow as well.
and yeah,
That's it.
that's basically what's going on in the high school. And we're gonna pretty soon we'll probably go to Maple Street and Harold Martins to see what's going on with the other schools. Harold Martins next.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty quiet honestly.
Perfect. Thank you. I like this tag team presentation. It's
Yeah.
very engaging. Okay, we're on to board comments, although there has been some breaking news that we all just received. Mike, would you like to announce our breaking
I
news?
forgot. I set that to go off. Do you want me to read it out loud?
Yeah, or I can.
You can read it. You're in charge.
Okay, so the breaking news for the Hopkinton School District is due to the expected storm overnight with high winds, snow, and rain. The Hopkinton School District will be on a 2-hour delay with no morning preschool. This will allow all school campuses along with roads to be checked and cleared for buses and drivers to arrive safely to school. So wake up a little later tomorrow, there's a 2-hour delay.
So we have, when storms are rolling in.
Except for Jim.
Yeah. When we have storms rolling in, we have national weather calls with local agencies. So we had a call at 3 o'clock today. Pretty imminent stuff. It's going to be, the wet, heavy stuff that could possibly create some outages, but more importantly, it would be tree downs and power lines down. So we want to make sure the sun's out and people are able to check roads and our buses are safe. So out of precaution, we'll do 2-hour delay.
Perfect.
Made them happy. I don't know about parents, but
All right, on to board comments.
No board comments for me.
Someone could write down the line.
No.
It is a quiet night from the board. Happy New Year. No comments from us. So with that, we can get right into our current business.
yeah. So in your folder, as well as gonna be up here. Like I said, I always get nervous. It's kind of the really exciting time of year is we are now finalizing or have finalized essentially what we've been doing since the month of September into October, November, and December. What we've done here tonight as a board, or what we're going to do as a board, is this is the presentation, but it's also the time, because tomorrow we go to the budget committee. So this will be the first time you're seeing this presentation. You can send Rob and I any comments, notes as we move through the slides. We've spent some time this morning as a leadership team going over it, and Rob as the budget representative going over it. We've kind of made some changes to the last 2 years. The last 2 years, you'll see some of the slides that look familiar and some that are different. And really we wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page as we move into essentially January, February before district meeting to communicate the messages. So we wanted to review how we've done this. Remember, it's crazy as a board. This is one of your main objectives when you run for it is setting the budget. But more importantly, communicating the timeline that we do start this process as a district in September. So you have our building principals along with whether it's PLC leaders, whether it's department heads, reviewing budgets. So they take a look at what we had last year. They take a look at requests that have come in, and they move forward their requests. And that kind of gets to the philosophy. So remember, I've always said if you give me $20, my goal is to spend $20. And really we wanted to make sure moving into this year that to really dive deep into the spending of that request of what we've been putting forward. And I think we've communicated through the meetings and the work groups that we've had that what we settled on and what we're going to do for 24-25 school year is whatever our budget lines were essentially this year is what they're going to be next year. It's a real different approach. I've tried to do some research, not sure that this has been done, but I think we've all agreed that let's take a look at it, and we feel comfortable with trying to operate with how we're doing, especially because of the other side of the budget that's increased out of our control. So you'll see some key budget drivers. We're going to go over enrollment and class size. Typically, it wasn't in this presentation, but we felt that it was beneficial to communicate it, especially now that we have the policy in place that helps support some of the decisions that we're making, along with some details, and then the snapshot and tax impact. This is the same arrow that you've seen now for 3 years: September, October, November, December, January. Tomorrow night we'll present to the budget committee. Rob, do you know any timeline on budget hearing or anything like that? Do you?
Sometime in February.
Sometime in February.
Yep.
We'll begin making our rounds to different stakeholders, PTA, Rotary, things of that nature to communicate the why behind where we're settling in on. So that goes into just kind of the overall philosophy, the impact on all stakeholders. Remember all the decisions. I think Andrea's done a great job this year reiterating that core decision is behind the students and what we're doing, along with the staff and the community. I'll continue to bang the drum on improved operations with structure and organization and accountability, and we can find those themes through all of our school board goals, superintendent goals, building goals. Reducing that surplus, I think, Rob, the training you went to on the budget committee side, the representative said 5%, right? Right around?
I think it was 2% was the number.
2%. That's right.
Which would put us at about $600,000.
That's what we want to make sure is we're hitting that target to not carrying over excessive And then obviously it's tying everything to the strategic plan. Budget goals for 24-25, level funding, which we discussed on the operational side. Move away from the large fund balance. A lot of the board goals is going to be, you're going to see as we get towards June, is some of those long-term plannings. Specifically, you know, the newest one was technology. At the last board meeting, we really wanted to try and come up with a plan with that. Tax stability rate, and then continue to involve the budgeting process philosophy, meaning, you know, we have to hear the stakeholders in the community and make sure we're altering as necessary as we move forward. So key budget drivers, salary and benefits. The benefits was the big piece this year with medical up 19%, close to, I think we settled in around $700,000. Transportation, in parentheses there, it's in part required by law because there's the RSA that says K through 8, and then there's some mileage stuff, but in Hopkinton, we provide transportation K through 12. So we had a new contract that was up, and then special education, some of the needs for our students have changed. Projected enrollment for next year, you know, you can, there's several ways to project enrollment. Basically, we do most of it internally, and we look on trends, enrollments, move-ins, move-outs. Seventh grade's a perfect example. We did not anticipate last year 13 move-ins, where that class grew by almost 13, 14. So taking into account, you'll see a little bit of a 13 overall district-wide projected enrollment. Pre-K through 3, up 3, Maple Street staying the same, and then the middle high school increasing by 10. That does not include, for the record, that does not include tuition students, because tuition students pay. This only includes move-ins. This is a breakdown of the class sizes. This year, current kindergarten was about 49. You typically see private kindergarten, and then as they get into first grade, they return. So there's about 6 difference there, but most of them have stayed the same. There was about a plus minus of maybe 1 or 2 in each grade. So as we mentioned, salaries and benefits, contractual obligations in regards to the majority of that, and then the increased benefits. So a point to emphasize is it's market driven. We've done several cost analysis this year on our benefits. We reached out to school care. They politely turned us down, as Rob said, because essentially we're paying $140 on every $100 we're spending. So we are part of the Health Trust consortium, so to speak, if I'm using the right word, that really helps set our market price. Transportation, our contract was up this year, and then we brought that forward. It does not include special education transportation. We separate that out. But that includes regular ed, athletics, field trips, CRTC. Remember, there was an increase on that side. I think the key here is, in speaking with other superintendents around the state, we got, I'll say, Herbie and First Student really took care of us again. Building that relationship has really benefited us comparative. And part of that 16% essentially is brand new school buses. So we will be getting brand new school buses with some upgraded technology, which helps us on our side, as well as possible, I'm going to say GPS tracking, so you can see where your bus is in regards to your stop, knowing when your student's coming. So those are some things that we can look forward to as we move forward.
How long is the bus contract, the new one?
5 years?
5 years. And they are still working on a quote for ski racks, just so you know. Yeah, it was a different request, so
Yeah.
Herbie came over today, they're still working on it. Special education, this is, this is the one that kind of punched us in the face a little bit, but it's required. These are some of our student needs. The majority of that, as you can see, is some tuitions as well as services, but really it's the transportation to and from. So if you ever have questions on that, we can certainly go into non-public and regards to some of those costs, but we've kind of covered that as we've moved forward. Facility, excluding utilities, because those are all staying pretty much level. We talked about those annual evaluations, supplies, and the repair and maintenance. So that's the one where Mr. Ruzicki came and presented the reductions that he felt he could handle as we can move forward. So that's where you can see the 6% increase. Technology, I think the easiest way I was able to settle on this with Matt is we really took a relook at the reevaluation of replacement plan, and I'll use projectors as the easy answer. That's one of the ones we talked about, a replacement plan, but felt if we were going to operate on the same numbers last year, that's something that we could pause, and Matt could evaluate the ones that are really close to the end. That's where we settled in technology. Harold Martin, they did a great job of the reduction of their supplies lines, as well as that reclassification of curriculum. Remember, some of those curriculum items got moved out of there and into the director of curriculum's line. Maple Street School, it was the IXL program, as well as reduction in supplies. And then HMHS, the real big one there was the non-renewal of the SAP program. We felt really confident with the new middle school model that we could go to a lot of those services into there, as well as any type of discussion. It's a hawk time, so we feel really confident moving forward with that. Athletics, 3,200, that had to do with the travels and the fees and the changes in that world. I'm not going into a lot of detail because I've already, over the months, gone into that. Okay. And then the SAU fees for the financial system, and then some professional development for our ABA. So one of the key slides here is really some of the discussions that we've had. The 1 year for the assistant business administrator is I just want to reiterate that the majority of that salary is coming from the position that we did not fill this year at Harold Martin because of the reduction in staff. So after next year, that one would totally come off the books. We also made a recommendation for a reduction of a Maple Street School teacher. And then I may lean on Michelle a little bit more for this one. I know, Rob, you had a little question in the slides in regards to the grant positions becoming general fund. You asked a really good question the evening we were talking about it because our Title I money is coming down. And you had asked how and why, and it's all formula based by the state. One of the big contributors is free and reduced lunch. Now, it's a positive that we have less free and reduced lunch, but you get less money if you have more affluent community. Does that sound right?
Yeah. The other one is IDEA is actually as.
Which was special ed.
Yep.
The other key thing to remember is as our benefits like health insurance are going up at a rate of 19%, that is driving, without even a salary increase going up, us to actually have to shift stuff out of the grant. That alone, because of that share, can't be supported, that increase can't be supported through the grant the following year.
So as I'm reading that, I see two numbers. So I see the 199 and then I see the 63,000. So I'm assuming that the loss of the grant funding in the end of ESSER, that's the 63, and then that's where I'm.
So the net of them.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's a formatting. So it's if you take money out of the budget from 136, and then there's an increase to the budget again because of the loss of grant funding, and that delta is the 63. So it shouldn't be a sub bullet. That's a really good
We'll
format.
fix that. That was
Yeah,
us
thank you.
talking out loud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the 63 should be there, and then the 199 should be at the bottom.
Yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
So she must be its own like
yeah.
That was us talking out loud.
big bullet.
FTEs always is a discussion when we get to the budget committee. So just a comparative from last year to this year, to be pretty direct, is that 0.55? If I'm good and quickly.
Yep.
Questions on that? Pretty straightforward. And then this is Rob's. Oh, you did make it happen. Rob's snapshot.
Yeah, I did make it happen.
Nice job. Sorry, we were working on this all day. Which gives you just some nitty-gritty numbers. He reviewed this with us last meeting, I believe it was the 19th of December.
Yeah, I think it might have, the first meeting in December, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah.
Self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is what the board decided at the last meeting as well, using Article 10, 400,000, fund balance 150, and then the benefit trust settling in at 200, which is a total of 750.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads us to our overall budget, 26.6, 686. Of the 1.7, 700,000 was benefits, 300,000 was almost $1 million alone, plus the transportation is where that's settled in. After using the trust, it came down to $1.70.
I have a question. Unless I'm reading this wrong, when you go to the snapshot, you see the 24-25 proposed budget is 25,193,000, and then the last slide says 26 million.
That's because this does not include the other funds. Whereas the other one, we have to include in our budget for food service, for the grants, and the other grants.
Yeah, that's a good note though, Norm.
That doesn't make any sense to me in the presentation.
Yeah, that's.
It doesn't,
yeah,
doesn't share.
Yeah.
That's
That's
gonna
a
be
good note.
confusing to anyone that sees this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Good
you have to put those, you have to put all that stuff into the budget, even though they will be paid
Correct, by the revenue.
immediately by revenue.
Yeah,
So it
you
makes
can't
it
spend
look like
it
the
without
overall
raising
number
it.
is bigger, even though there's revenue that will immediately.
Yeah.
But that should be updated in the presentation to be more
Yeah.
clear.
So, can you say that again, Norm?
Sure, so,
You can answer the line on the bottom.
there is an amount for food service, for, we're not talking about the 100,000 that we're putting in our budget, we're talking about the bigger amount that we budget for. The $750,000 for federal projects, and the $50,000 that we budget for other grants and donations. So all of that money has to be picked up. It's not part of the snapshot, it never has, because it's offset by revenue. So we never talk about it because it's not an increase. It's a neutral thing.
But we talk about it every year.
We talk about it at the end, but during the budget process, we don't increase the amount. So on the big document, like, there's gonna be other documents that we do, and I've already done, and it's almost complete once the warrant is complete, where the big spreadsheet that I do, and it breaks it out on there, and it talks about, and then the big budget bulletin, and it goes in further detail, and it's on there as well.
That's a great note, Norm. Yeah, thank you.
It just probably needs to have some kind of footnote on the snapshot that there is an amount of X
Yeah.
that is funded from revenues for food service, federal projects, and other grants that total blank, and then that, a total thing, which I can send.
Well,
you.
it's the number that goes on the MS-25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 1,407,628. That is the other funds total.
Can you say that one more time?
Sure, 1,407,628.
And that's included in what we're asking the town to vote on, right?
Yep, yeah.
So
So this
is
thing
there-
probably looks familiar like we do every year, so yeah.
Is there a way to include those numbers in the snapshot in a simple way?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just add,
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
add
Other fund or
another
something?
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not having two
Because
different slides.
if you look at the snapshot, even under the 23-24 approved, it's 23,045,000.
Right, and it should
And
be
then if
20.
you look at the overall budget proposal, our current budget is 24,892,000 because
Yeah.
it incorporates the additional money that you have to put in there.
Yeah, which is exactly that same amount, 1,407,628 for both years. Yeah.
Sorry, I just,
No, that's a good.
No, it's a
No, that's
great catch.
clarifying point.
That's good, Norm.
So that's comments on the presentation. Questions for Rob? Rob, for the board, all of this prior to going to tomorrow night.
I thought it was awesome. My only comment would be to go back. There's a couple acronyms in there that I think will probably not mean anything to a lot of people, so I would just go back and do sort of an acronym scrub.
Are you gonna fine me for each one that's in there?
That's right.
I will.
I would
Yep.
love to find you for each one that's in there.
It's $1, so
Take a
it's
motion.
not that expensive.
There's only a few of them, but
So acronym scrub, okay?
yeah.
And we're gonna switch the staffing budget slide,
This one.
flip the numbers, yep, that you mentioned. Any other questions?
I think my only one, and I think I might have texted you, is, the budgeting philosophy. So people will talk about zero-based budgets, people will talk about traditional budgets, people will talk about line item budgeting. And I think that for us, we're probably doing some amalgam of all of those things. I don't think anybody in schools truly does a zero-based budget, although I have some thoughts for that for the future. So, I mean, am I on the right track there, that really what we asked departments to do was to go through their budgets line by line, and we looked at them line by line, which was sort of like, and shared that with the budget committee and folks. So not stripping it down to zero, but justifying and explaining what you spent and what you didn't spend, which really led us to taking this slightly risky maneuver of saying we're going to go flat for this year in those operating lines.
I think as we dove into those lines, and I remember you that night basically circling what we spent last year versus where we are, I think we all came to the conclusion that, again, let's take it as an opportunity to see what we can do, because of the philosophy, as you just mentioned. So taking a look at world history line, what you spend,
Right.
what didn't you spend, is it needed, is it not needed? So yeah, I mean, I think the vocabulary is important to change so that people understand how we do operate as a system
Right.
in a building.
And I don't, I think it's dangerous to get locked into, we use this system, we use that system, because there are pros and cons to all of them. And there's also, I think, realities to, the concept of a zero-based budget, throw out all your knowledge and start from scratch, seems like an incredibly inefficient way to do things. But perhaps to sit down with somebody who's not a part of your group or your team, and this is where I'm thinking ahead to future years. So, for instance, social studies department sits down with somebody from special ed and walks through, this is my budget, this is what we spent it on, and sort of get a consortium of people with different viewpoints to see if there are some inefficiencies that maybe we can do things differently. Not zero-based budgeting, but sort of cross-analysis.
Yeah, we're also in a profession in which a lot of what we do this year will happen next year within our classroom, right? Because we're curriculum-driven, program-driven, whatever it might be. So there's not a whole lot of shifting.
Right.
There's not new things that you need immediately rather than preparation. So that's why it allows us a little bit of what you just discussed.
Mike, could you explain a little bit, and I'm sorry if I asked this in a previous meeting, the impact in the meaning of the reduction in supplies for our classrooms? Is it because we have an overage from previous years that we have a lot of, or is this going to be an impact that down the
No,
road?
so the principals, more specifically the elementary principals, did a really good job of doing a lot of inventorying in the spring. So really, in May and June, I know they worked really hard of inventorying supplies. So easy answers would be whiteboard markers. If we had enough, and they did a true inventory, so they had a count that they felt like this year coming up, we would be fine. That's where those reductions came from. Paper, with our new printing, has helped us save on
Okay.
paper. So stuff like that, where they did a real dive. I can remember Gene putting it all out in all the hallways and returning stuff too. So that's kind of where that is.
Okay, just want to make sure we're still servicing the kids' needs with adequate supplies and stuff.
And Dulcie and Andrea, I know we sat this morning, but any questions, comments?
I don't have any at this point.
No, I think it's good. I mean, I think the biggest thing, and this is what we were sort of thinking about this morning, was I think for the people at this table, we've thought through this budget for 7 meetings now. I think the biggest thing when we think about these presentations is if you're a taxpayer who's just coming to the table and listening or thinking about school district meeting, or you know, how do we make sure that we're getting across the information that we need without including too much? And so I think really thinking about whatever feedback we can get from the school board about the best way to do that would be awesome. Because I think we want people to feel informed but not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just on that thought, which is an awesome one, I would maybe start with the bottom line and then work through the rest of the process, so they're not waiting. People aren't waiting to slide whatever 24 to get to the numbers, but hear the number, because the explanation that you all walk through is, I mean, it's the reality, but I think maybe doing the number first and then walking through how you got there might help with just that, Dulcie.
Yep.
Or say it twice, beginning and end. Can I say it at the end still?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you should keep that slide. We'll sort of sandwich it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I think it'll be good.
Not the Instagram reel that's 30 minutes long to find out contractually.
That's what's happening.
Here, yeah.
I think the other thing that's helpful is, and Michelle referenced this a little bit, is that you obviously do the bulletin, which has a lot of information. I think thinking about the one pager that we can sort of put together now that things are set. And I think last year we made an FAQ document. Am I making that up, or is that in my
I
head?
would like to have an FAQ document.
Yeah, but
again,
it's just like
a layman's terms FAQ.
Yeah. It can just be quick polls for questions that have come up repeatedly. I think is a great thing, which I'm happy to work on.
I think having this to the point is important, you know, just where we are. I mean, if they wanted information, we had quite a few meetings, you know, where we unpacked a lot of this. You know, my first comment, you know, when I first see this is that it's like I said, we were sort of flat this year, but that's just something that's not really possible every year with the way it is to educate our students. I think it's important to reiterate that there's each year with the increase of special ed and health insurance that we did our best to relatively stay flat.
Well, and this will go to the budget committee and at least once, and then I'm sure they'll talk to us again. There will be a public hearing for it, so folks will have an opportunity prior to the district meeting to ask questions. You know, I know that, I'll say it again, we've all said that folks can reach out to us individually if they'd like to talk about the budget. That's sort of what we're here for. I'd like to also take a look at what we have. This is just jumping off of what Dulcie was presenting or talking about, what we have on the website to make sure that it's also as user-friendly and accessible as possible. So that's it. Is there anything else you
Michelle, are you
need
good?
from us? Yeah.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
No, so we'll present tomorrow night to the budget committee, and then really that will be their first time to give us feedback directly on what we got going on. Sometimes we go 2 weeks in a row, sometimes we don't.
And they've been given the big snapshot sheet already. They've seen, what else do they have? They've got a series of documents that they've already seen, so a lot of this will sort of be a summation. They've got the big picture. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you've been communicating
Yeah.
throughout the year,
So,
especially since October. I know you've been updating. So.
I'm also just looking at something which I think is really notable, is that if we exclude the increase in our operations, if we include special ed from that, it is like a 1% budget increase, which I think is amazing across all of the work that has to go into the schools to operate that. And I think it's a huge ask for the schools to do that. And that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, so it's the healthcare, it's the transportation, and it was special ed.
Yep.
I remember Jim asking me that question, I think, last meeting.
Yep.
It said essentially, if you eliminate all that, we are flat.
Can you, in the larger spreadsheet, can you just highlight those three at the end?
Yep.
So they pop out?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't want to touch that.
I got you.
Okay.
Yep.
And
All
then we'll also be putting a copy of this in the public folder this evening as well. So this whole presentation will be available.
Great.
All right, so moving, can I move on,
Absolutely.
Andrea?
Yeah.
May I move on? The draft warrant articles have been reviewed by legal. They are in your folder. There's a couple I'd like to talk about, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Would you all like to discuss who's going to be reading them at district meeting yet? Or do you want to just review these out loud? I'm asking. No, not necessarily needed tonight, but maybe you can start thinking about it. It's up to you.
Yeah.
We can talk about like,
Who's going to present the article at district meeting?
Yeah, I think we can.
talk through it.
I think we can talk through that tonight.
All right, so do you want to read them or me?
Sure, I can
Okay.
read through them. So I'll just read them through. I don't remember. We don't have to
There's no vote yet.
make a vote at this point. Okay.
Nope.
All right, so Article 1, standard to hear reports of agents, auditors, committees, and officers chosen or to take any other action in relation thereto, which is the opening of the meeting. Article 2, so this is going to be our budget article. I would suggest that Rob take this one. And the article reads, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the budget committee's recommended amount of, currently we have our amount in there, of $26,600,686 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for the school district officials and agents, and for the payment for the statutory obligation of the district, or to take any other action in relation thereto. This article does not include appropriations voted in other warrant articles. So that number will be, we don't know what that number will be exactly until the budget committee finalizes it. Good? All right. Article 3. This is going to be our Hess contract, and if memory serves, I think Jim, are you up for taking this article?
I would love to, it'd be great.
Great. So Article 3 reads, to see if the school district will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hopkinton School Board and the Hopkinton Educational Support Association, which calls for the following changes in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. Fiscal year 24-25, estimated increase of $275,777. Fiscal year 2025-26, estimated increase $87,790. Fiscal year 2026 to 2027, estimated increase $87,233.
So
Oh.
that's one of my first talking ones.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you want
I was going to finish it.
Okay.
And further to raise and appropriate the sum of $275,777 for the upcoming fiscal year, such sum representing the costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. The school board recommends this article.
So this is the first year of the 275. I want to bring it to the board for discussion. So that's the one that's in part of the the agreement was the new buyout for our Hess employees. So what we anticipated doing was, which we did, we held an information session for our Hess employees to kind of communicate the benefits to a buyout, the opportunities for them to possibly have more cash in their pocket, and then the benefits for the district is obviously on our side of less packages to carry, so to speak. So we held that informational session, and within the next week or so, I'll be working with the president there to send out kind of like a soft poll. all right, on whether you, because it has to be non-binding, because you don't have to choose until the next fiscal. The challenge here is I also communicated with our legal team in that what number do you put on the warrant? Because the number that's currently there, I'm going to do my best here, so help me out. The
No
number
problem.
that's currently there is the
Meaning
app,
the
the
277.
277 is the absolute. Can I say worst case?
It is.
It's the worst case. Okay, that means nothing changes, everything stays the same, and that's what the possible buyouts could be. The challenge is here is when we do open enrollment and people do sign up, if you get one person, two person, three people, that number could drop 10, 15, 20, 30. So that number is really nothing other than a protectional piece because we don't know the true answer. And that's the challenge of that type of benefit, not living it year after year. So why I'm bringing it to the board is we're going to take the straw poll, but it's only a straw poll. It's not binding. Anyone could have a change in life status. Anyone could have a change in medical. All of that could come into play. So really, as our attorney said, you can put the number that Michelle has. You could put $15,000 left. It's really what we feel comfortable with, at least communicating to the taxpayers that this is a possibility, but it could also be a negative. Like it's a weird. I mean, I've talked to everyone here about it. Like it's a challenging number to try and settle in on. But what I had Michelle put together is an absolute worst case scenario. So I'm kind of throwing it that way. I don't know if anyone has an opinion.
Mike, explain, just because I'm not, what's the worst case scenario? Like, why is it the worst case scenario? Help me understand that.
So the worst case scenario is everyone that's currently taking a buyout takes a buyout. So nothing changes, right? One person could take the buyout, and if they're on the family plan, now that number drops $25,000, $22,000. So that protection piece just basically says whatever we have in place right now as a contract would move forward, and here's the financial part that we do. I do a good job.
Gotcha.
She explained it to me a little bit. Like I had the same question. How is this the worst case?
Because the thing is if the contract fails, right, we want to have enough money in the operating budget to have current people at the health insurance they have, but also the buyout that we have. And so that's why the thought process always been that a change in a buyout, and you can only go with, and this is how I've always done it for the years I've been here, go with who's in the buyout now and do that delta. And so that's why it would be worst case, because someone might jump, right? But actually it would be, we'd have a savings, but we can't go with that yet because we have no idea if they're actually gonna do that. And they could say that, but then we'd have to say, okay, we'll have to then, what, the board want me to reduce the budget then and then reduce, you know what I'm saying?
But wouldn't the worst case be if those who are currently on the buyout decide to take health insurance? Because that would be a huge cost to the district.
But we never do that.
No,
I
no,
guess-
no.
I
I'm just
guess-
saying it's a language piece.
I guess what you're
it's
saying-
I'm trying to the
If
language.
5
'cause-
people picked up the family plan.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, I
mean, that would
guess
be the
I
worst
understand
case
what you're
scenario.
saying. I just can't I don't think of it that way, but I definitely understand what you're saying. Because wouldn't they already be there? Because we're increasing it.
I guess I'm just reacting to the worst case because to me that would be the worst case is everybody on buyout now decides to take health insurance. Right?
No, absolutely. I'm just thinking of it more of if they're
That sounds
getting
awful to
a
say
little
out loud,
amount.
too, but-
If they're getting a little amount,
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
right? Wouldn't the worst case, wouldn't it be that they'd be tempted to get the insurance if it's $1,500?
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
But I get
You're
what you're
being
saying.
literal.
I'm being literal because I don't see that as the worst case. I
Yes.
guess presenting it to the town as the worst case feels kind of off to me because
Right,
that's
so
not
let's-
really.
let's-
Not presented.
No,
that's
no,
kind of what I'm
so
saying.
changing the way it's communicated is budgeting for everyone that is currently on the buyout is what's budgeted
That-
for in that number.
That's accurate. That's
That-
correct.
Yep.
That's accurate.
Now, we also don't necessarily need to. That's what legal's telling us. But that's the way you protect it
Yeah,
the
which
most.
totally makes sense. And so I guess the other piece that I would explain if we're explaining it, or using language is exactly what
Well,
you said.
when you're explaining.
The first part, that's right, I gotta do it. The first part of what you said, and then explaining why the buyout increase is so helpful and important
Right.
to the district and saving
Yes.
money, so.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yes.
Because it's all positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no negative here.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
I just want us to repeat that this
If-
isn't,
Yes, and it's one of the only levers we have to actually try to control
Yeah.
costs. Yes.
And it helps in not just the current employees, but when new employees are applying,
yeah.
it's especially for the payment of what they're receiving hourly, that benefit really becomes more attractive for us, but also they're not going to, someone won't just be coming to work for benefits, which a lot of people forget.
Yeah, I guess I would hope with most of these articles that whoever is presenting first either reads the article and then presents,
Yeah.
some sort of context, so people aren't going into it blind.
So
Not worst case.
at the next board meeting, I'll give you that straw poll. I just want everyone to take it as a straw poll,
Yeah,
because
Totally.
I always say anything could happen.
yeah. And that can help with slides and stuff too. Yeah.
Okay, so Article 4.
All right, so we're on to Article 4. This is a required article that happens after the contract article, which is, shall the school district, if warrant Article 3 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address warrant Article 3 cost items only. So that one,
I think usually the
Yeah.
person who moves the, Jim would stay up there and do that one too.
I would love to.
You do
Yes.
back to back, they usually do
Yes.
back to back. and
although
give
folks will have voted on Article 3
Yeah, and
by
then
the
Jim
time
will
Article 4
Jim
comes.
will pop up
So.
there and be like, hey.
Yeah. So we
What's
won't
up?
we won't need to call a special meeting
Yeah,
if it
correct.
already
If it-
passes.
correct.
Yep. All right. So,
Well,
yep.
if warrant Article 3, I think you just said this, if warrant Article 3 passes, then we just skip over.
Yeah.
And we don't need it.
Unless you
Yeah.
want to have a special town meeting.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Okay. Okay.
right.
Yeah.
You can still get authorization for something we don't want to do. All right. So Article 5. All right. So this is the school district building repair and maintenance. So I don't have a good handle on this one yet. So Article 5, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate $350,000 to be added to the school district building repair and maintenance expendable trust fund. So who'd like to take this one?
I would love to
You
take.
want to take that one? Okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I can help with materials.
Absolutely.
Great.
Andrew, when, after we go through the warrants, can we go back to Article 5 and Article 6 and discuss how we're funding that? Because in our last meeting, we talked about how we.
Yeah,
Because-
I think and we can make a motion the morning of, or the day of the meeting to change it based off of data that we have. But
I disagree to a degree. We need to have some type of.
but Rob can talk about it at budget committee, the intention of how we would like to fund it, but knowing that we
Okay.
don't have 2 to 3 more months of data is really helpful for being able to know where we are with fund balance and everything else.
As these are written, this is
Yeah.
to raise and appropriate
Got it.
funds.
Yeah.
None of this as written would be to
Okay.
use any funds out of surplus, for example, but that is something that in the past we've done.
Yeah, 2 years ago, or
Yeah.
last
Yeah,
year.
So-
so our discussion was to leave it as is, to raise and appropriate, but as the meeting gets closer, if it's looking like we would be able to fund those in a different manner, this is at least what I,
Well,
what
we
I
actually
heard
mentioned we have a
last
board meeting on the 5th, which is the week of, so we can make determinations at that point on
How we're
if we
gonna
were gonna
fund
make a
it.
motion on the floor to change it.
Yeah.
That sounds
But don't you have to post the warrant in advance?
We're
Right,
just saying
we
the
make a
warrant's
motion
going to
on
be
the
this.
floor.
And
Okay.
I mean, I would love to have that defined before we vote on the warrants, because I guess at this point, I'm not sure I'd vote positively on the warrant if it was coming out of.
It's kind of different than we've done it before, because when you kind of go into the whole packet of what the tax rate impact, that does have some impact on the whole discussion. We can make a decision how we fund it, and if down the road, like we did last year prior to the meeting, we can make an amendment on that. But I
Yes.
do think it's important that we do have some type of it's not only in tax rate impact. I understand where you guys are coming from that
I mean,
angle, but.
that's how it's currently written.
Right.
This is an
Correct,
all-in.
but I'm asking about a discussion about, what it would look like with bringing it to the town and communicating with it. Giving them 1 week of saying, hey, we're making an amendment or taking it out of here, I think is a little tricky.
Does anyone
Yeah.
remember the
I
timeline in
mean-
which we made the adjustment to the, because I think, I'm looking at you because you were the chair at the time.
Yeah, I think we did it on the floor.
We did it on the floor.
We did it on
Did
the
we
floor,
do
and it was
anything
fine.
prior to?
No, because I think our fund balance came in sort of at the last minute enough that we felt comfortable doing it.
Right.
But I don't think it was a discussion at the board table prior to.
So we vote after the budget committee, correct?
Yes.
So are you looking for something prior to the budget committee?
Yeah, well, what are you trying to
Well,
accomplish?
we've always, from my understanding, we've always voted in advance before we had sent it to the budget committee, because in our presentation, we had said, this is what the board had voted on. I'm totally comfortable with the way we're doing with the operating budget, because it's great to get their feedback. But since they can't amend the warrants for repair and maintenance, it's kind of in our hands. It's a tax rate implication that when they're doing their calculations, they're gonna wanna know what is the board thinking about in order to set the tax rate. So I think it's a missing piece that's important that we need to figure out sooner than later, rather than at the end of what the discussion's going towards. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I do. That's why, I agree.
Yeah.
So.
So then are you saying then, because I'm hearing you,
We should firm up something, and if it gets
this
better,
is,
then
this is firm. So are you saying you don't want to raise and appropriate $350,000?
I want to raise, it's important for us to decide if we're going to be taking money.
Right, but what do you want based off of it? Like, this says we're going to raise and appropriate, yeah.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
do.
So, the last meeting, the projected fund balance was about 550,000, 600,000, is that correct? I don't have that number right in front of me.
562, 559, something
Okay.
like that?
So we're using 150 for the operating budget, so
Yeah.
that brings us down to 400,000.
No, that was 500 was on top of the 150 is already in the budget. I believe.
So, last month it was 508, now it's 649.
Okay. And of that 640, that projected 649, we would use 150 towards this budget,
Correct.
correct? So that brings us down to 500,000 available funds. So we could, to me in my head, I would say it is more likely than not that we would be able to take $200,000 to support this warrant article from fund balance. My question to Michelle is, have in your 20 years of experience ever seen a fund balance all of a sudden go the other way?
It's, unless something significantly happens multiple times, just because of where the savings is really in the salary and benefits area, it's not in the
Fuel or whatever.
object stuff. I can't imagine it going the other way to that extreme, unless we had significant move-ins. I just have to use that, and I know someone probably
That's
out
what-
there or here might,
I'll answer it, because you're doing your job
Right.
protecting the house. It's not gonna swing significantly on that number you just said. I'd be very concerned if you went right to the 350 to start until we get through.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm suggesting that we do put a number up that, and I don't know if we have to put it on the warrant now, or just simply for a discussion with the budget committee, that we feel confident that we could ask to raise and appropriate 150,000 in support $200,000 from fund balance.
That's what I would.
Do you know when are you presenting the warrants? Are you presenting them tomorrow at budget committee or only
I'm sure they're
operating?
going to ask tomorrow. so.
Okay, yeah.
Comfortable with what Rob just laid out.
Yeah, I agree with Rob.
So we need to, do I have?
So we would
I
still,
cannot edit
the warrant would
this.
still say 350, but we're saying we're taking 200,000 from fund balance, and then if you raise and appropriate 150,000.
No, we raised, well,
You
yeah.
raise and appropriate all of it,
All
and
of
then
it.
200,000
With
comes to fund
200,000.
balance
Correct.
with
Does that
100.
make sense?
Yeah,
yeah,
yep.
So the tax impact would be 150,000.
correct.
Correct. I just think when you're putting this together, I think when you put this together as a budget committee member, you want to see the whole picture, because then the only thing you're going to look at to reduce it is the budget. When you have a variable unknown of what the tax rate impact is going to be on for the district. That's kind of how I look at it.
So are you able to edit this?
So Michelle has the master copy.
Someone can edit,
Yeah, I have
okay, so
to-
you got that
She's taking notes.
to put that in.
You need the
Excellent.
warrants edited. at
Yeah,
this
I
point.
mean,
Yeah,
For your
It's just
purpose.
for
I think-
point
I
of
just want,
discussion.
I just want,
Yeah.
I
so
just,
we remember this so we can
Yeah.
take it tomorrow.
I'm not suggesting that we edit anything. I'm just asking for permission from the board to
Yeah.
have a more likely than not
Vote
conversation
this.
with the budget
Yeah.
committee. That's what
That's
I'm.
totally fine.
Yeah,
As long
yeah,
as
that was
it's-
my
And
understanding,
that
yes.
gives us another month to 6 weeks to see
Yep.
how things flush out, but I don't want to go and say, we're asking for 350,000 on top
Yes.
of everything.
Yes.
I don't think
Correct.
that's,
That's
That's fine.
exactly what I was
It's not
trying.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
I would
agree.
feel really comfortable with a motion in February after the January financials come
Come in.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
for, again, Michelle doing her job, I'm also aware of some personnel things that are kicking around that are gonna change some financial situations coming up. So,
Yep.
okay.
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah, so there you go, there's your conversation.
Yeah.
And that ask and you shall receive. All right, so ready, okay to move on?
Yep.
All right, Article 6, I'm working myself out of articles, but Dulcie, if you could take this one.
We can do that.
This is to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate $20,000 to be added to the replacing school district vehicles capital reserve fund established March 6, 2010.
And we put that number on there, because that's kind of what we settled on. Just want to be clear. It wasn't a strong feeling either way, so I said we'll put 20 on, and everyone was okay with
That
that.
sounds great.
That sounds great.
And then the final article is to transact any other business that may legally come before said meeting, which, we don't take that one. All right? And I'll go ahead and open it up and welcome everyone, blah, blah, blah. I would like to lay some context for this year as well. So I will get up.
So you worked yourself into,
I did. I worked myself into opening the whole thing. And then as we did it last year, I think as folks have questions, whoever is presented can sit back down and then we can just answer as a board.
And do you wanna be the question allocator, like someone can indicate and you'll
I
assign
can do
so
that.
we're organized at the table?
Yep, happy to do that.
Great.
All right, sound good? Anything else with warrants? Excellent.
thanks, Michelle.
Okay.
All right, so moving on. Am I
Yep.
all right?
Yeah. So we're gonna try to move as slightly expeditiously as possible. We did get a little message that the roads are getting pretty slick, so just for people to know, drive carefully.
So then we can move quickly. So 24-25 school calendar, it's in there for a second read. Met with HEA today, worked through some of their suggestions. They're gonna send it to their exec committee one more time. Leadership reviewed this on Thursday. I'd say it's 98% done. So if you have anyone else has any comments or feedback, please feel free to send me it. But I think we're settling in on that calendar. Looks good. We got Concords on Monday, I think it just came out, so. You have comments or questions?
Thinking back to whenever Christmas was on a Wednesday, it always meant 2 weeks.
Oh,
I know, I was thinking
Always
about that,
mentioned.
this time of vacation, I was like, what is the
I
optimal
am the
vacation that
Grinch.
happens for teachers and
But I'm
kids?
with you. I saw the end date, I was like, yeah, okay.
I'm the Grinch, we're coming back.
Our student reps are gonna go home, so
All
they'll
right.
be on tape.
Yeah.
Please do drive
Thank
very
you.
slowly.
Very slowly, don't
We
brake
will.
suddenly,
Yeah.
although I guess with anti-lock brakes it's fine, but.
Thanks for
Still
the.
don't.
I know.
Hey, have
Yeah.
everybody sleeping
Yeah.
in.
Take your foot off the
Yes.
gas.
Good luck tomorrow night. Thank you. I'd like to see a better picture.
All right, so
Duncan.
next,
That's the next school.
Yeah.
All
Bye,
right.
guys,
See you guys.
drive safe.
See ya.
next meeting, I'll be looking for a vote to approve the 24-25 school year calendar.
Okay.
Great.
All right,
All right. Early retirement.
on to early retirements in your
Wait.
packet.
Can I ask another question about the calendar? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going back to board materials, calendar. I have it here. So PD days for the
There's a couple Wednesdays which
that
you
are
know.
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
We are entering into some work with a couple consultants,
Mhm.
and Wednesdays typically work better for their schedules.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
that's why
Okay.
you see some Fridays and some Wednesdays.
Okay.
The
Alright.
earlier we get it out there, the earlier people can plan.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Now early retirement.
Yeah.
In your folder is a list of the early retirees. interesting part I say every year in Hopkinton is they still have the opportunity until March 15th to withdraw. But on this list, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 early retirees and the financial package associated with them. I am going to look for a motion to accept let me back up a step. I would like to make a recommendation to support all 5. That's important to note because 3 is the only guarantee. Last year, we only supported the minimum number. This year, because of our fund balance, we're more than able to support all the recommendations. I don't want to get into the farewell speeches because it happened before in which some people have stepped back, so we'll wait till that date. So I would look for a motion for the board to accept the 5 early retirees as presented, and you have to.
No, you can make a motion to accept 4 as presented, and then I'll abstain from the other one. But I can abstain.
Let's do that.
Whatever you want to do, Mike.
We'll
It's
do it
fine.
that
I'm
way.
just kidding.
So let's make a motion.
You're gonna have to say who it is then.
Well, we're gonna go with that one first then. We're gonna go with, let's accept, make a motion to accept Susan Nadeau as an early retiree from the Hopkinton School District.
So, moved.
Great. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Susan. All right. Any discussion?
Can we assure that she's not gonna back out before?
She's not backing out.
All right, just want to have clarification on that. Thank
Great.
you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank
Any
you.
abstain?
I abstain.
Thank you, Susan.
All right, so with that, I need another motion to accept the early retirement of Ms. Grady, Ms. Thornley, Mr. Chase, and Ms. Johnson as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so
but
we
they
will
do
get-
have till the 15th
We will
of
get a
March.
better idea on the 15th.
Their average years of service is over 32 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Their sum is 161 years. Which
That's
is
right.
pretty-
You were doing similar math as I was. I know. I saw someone else.
That's amazing.
Which is pretty amazing.
Don't add up
Absolutely
their
bonkers.
birth dates, though. That would be unkind.
All right,
Great.
so with that, it's on to policy.
We have not met yet this year, so I have no policy.
Yes, in 2024, correct.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, moving on.
All right,
Consent agenda.
consent agenda, personnel report,
Sure.
Michelle.
So we have 2 new hires. One is Isla Hino, 1.0 inclusional assistant at Harold Martin. And then Richard McMahon, a .37 inclusion assistant at the middle high school. Looking for those.
Tried to like the new one, that's the old one. Sorry.
The next thing is a donation from Granite State Credit Union for $1,000 for Osram Robotics. So thank you to them. The last thing I have is financial. So we kind of talked about it earlier. In the Google Drive is not only the financial for December, but it's also the quarterly reports are in there as well. Again, for everybody, financial show just over $649,000 is anticipated at the end of June. That's all I have.
Any questions for Michelle on financials?
No.
I updated the link in there, sorry, it was the wrong one. Okay, moving on to superintendent's report, really quick. Tomorrow at 9, I wasn't able, tomorrow at 9, there is a hearing on HB 1583. That's House Bill 1583. That is a bill that is put forward to increase, thank you, adequate education from $4,100 to $10,000 per pupil. You can log in if you would like. You can add comments if you would like, if you haven't done so already. It would really change the support from the state to each town. Really early on in the process, but certainly worth some time. Kind of correlates with the lawsuit that we are a part of, in which the number was settled on around $9,100 and something dollars. I hope it continues to drive the case that the state of New Hampshire is really putting a lot of the burden on the towns to help support. So if you have some time, check that out. Tomorrow night is budget committee meeting. Rob and I will be there to present. We will bring back any comments, questions, feedback to the next board meeting, and then we get to go back. Today, I had the pleasure of going to the State House today for the Kid Governor inauguration. Our 5th grade student, Parker, having a brain cramp.
I know exactly. I can picture
Yeah.
her, and I know her mom and her.
Well, Parker,
Parker, congratulations.
Parker.
She is on the governor committee, and she did a fantastic job. Senator Whitley was there. We took some pictures. Governor Sununu was there. She ran on litter and how to help the state, preventative measures. So that she gets to serve on that committee all year long, and it was really cool to be a part of. We were in the chamber and learned about the legislative branches, which was a good learning lesson for everybody, and how it's the oldest chamber in the country. And next year is the 200th anniversary, so it was pretty cool to be a part of. So congratulations to Parker. And then my last point in there is there's the late opening tomorrow, which everyone got the text. I forgot I sent it at 5:35. So
you did on purpose.
it's the call we were on at 3 doesn't look like it's going to be pretty overnight. We just want to make sure we allow opportunity for clear roads. With that, I would ask that you accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We're on to committee updates. I can start. Policy is meeting next week. We have several policies that we've been working on. Curriculum and Assessment Committee is meeting on Thursday afternoon with lots of updates. So I think that committee will be able to bring a good update to you guys pretty soon, which would be great. Finance.
We haven't met
beyond
since our
budget.
Yeah.
You're living it. Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
CIP.
We're good.
Yeah. Energy. We've got a presentation this time. So.
Yeah, I had a presentation last time, meeting, we're kicking off sort of our series of meetings this Thursday, all goes well, yep.
Safety. I don't know if you've met in here.
Safety meets Thursday.
Okay. Great. And budget meets tomorrow. Excellent. Any other committee related things? No? All right. With that, we've come to our second public comment portion of the evening. We ask that you keep comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address for the record. And if you'd like to make a comment, come on up.
Clement, 86 Maple Street. Comment on the CIP trust. I appreciate the conversation we were having here about the 200,000 on the fund balance. I guess what I would like to know is if you guys have considered, because the long range is that this progressively grows up to 425 or 450 per year annually. If 3 years out or 2 years out, you cannot apply fund balance to something that's progressively growing, is that going to be sticker shock and then throw the whole thing off? And I don't know if budgets, if they're going to be flat, if we're going to anticipate $1.5 million increases every year. So as you take that 200,000 and take it away from there, if there's a year where we don't have that fund balance available, and then you have to present $425,000 increase to stay on your schedule, that's going to be some sticker shock. So I just hope you're considering that factor in too. I don't know the solution, but I can see that being sketchy. If we go 150 and 150 again, that seems on par, but the larger jump is going to be a little scary.
Yeah, great, thank you. Any further comments?
Rita Blanchard, Barton Corner Road. I was really hoping the kids could get a civics lesson. I'm going to hand in a petition to get SB2 on ballot.
Great.
You guys want to sign it?
Nope, thank you. All right, so that will also, we'll pass that on to,
It's his meeting.
Town clerk.
to
Town clerk.
Town clerk. Yep, we'll pass it on to the town clerk, and the town clerk will verify that they're all registered voters. And then what we'll do is we'll work on a public hearing. It'll be added on our warrant. Mhm.
We've had this before.
We have
That's
had it
great.
before.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just haven't had it since the Concord team made it so it couldn't be on the ballot, that it had to go before town meeting. So that's new this year, so it has to actually go be addressed at the town meeting,
Yeah.
school meeting.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's appeared as a warrant at school meeting before as well. So, all right, any other comments?
Hi, my name is Devin Chafee, 483 Briar Hill Road. Just want to thank you. I've been very lucky to be able to be here for, I think, most of this budgeting process. I really appreciate all the time and effort that you all have put into this. Really appreciated the presentation today. It clarified a lot for me. Just thank you for your time. I would really, I think, Chairman Folsom.
You just call me Andrea. Just call me Andrea. It's
I
fine.
stated that it could be uploaded tonight to the website.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that would be really helpful for folks
Yeah.
to have it before the budget committee tomorrow. And so if that is possible, I would encourage us to try and take pictures, and they did not come out so I do have a question for Superintendent Flynn, because this is in all of these conversations that I've been here for, the first time that sort of clicked for me. And for full disclosure, I am a parent of 2 twins that are currently in the 3rd grade here at Maple Street. That you're reducing a Maple Street teacher, and in looking at the class sizes, it seems that you're reducing a teacher for the very same grade, most likely, that we had hours and hours and hours of conversation before the budget committee last year. Now, I know we have gone through a process of looking at class sizes. My understanding as we were going through that class size and looking back at the conversations that took place before the budget committee last year is that class still falls, the class sizes for that class, which is currently grade 3, will be grade 4 next year, still fall within those parameters. And I also understand that there is a reason why questions like how you are staffing each school grade does not go to the school board. I get that. I understand that. Those are decisions that need to be made by the administration, by the superintendent. But I suppose the reason why I'm bringing it up is because this is going to go to the budget committee tomorrow. I think it's great that you were very transparent about it. You put it in red. I think that was the right thing to do. I mean, you were transparent about the fact that you're reducing a Maple Street teacher. But I have to imagine that people are going to ask, aren't you cutting a teacher and essentially cutting the same class down to 3 teachers that there was tons of feedback last year should actually be serviced by 4 teachers at the last school budget? And to be honest, for all the time that hours and hours I've spent here, it didn't become clear to me that that's likely the implications of that budget cut until now. And so I could be misunderstanding the data, and and again, I understand why it's not the school board's job to set how each grade is staffed, but it seems to me that there's got to be an understanding of which grade is going to lose a teacher, and it seems to me like it's the exact grade that we had all of these discussions about last year. And so if I'm wrong, I would really like you to enlighten me, and if not, I'd really appreciate understanding, like, especially Superintendent Flynn, last year you proposed in your original budget that this class be staffed by 4 teachers, and part of why the community became engaged is because they wanted to defend your original budget. And so if you have made a different assessment this year, that you think that this grade, which I don't believe has changed significantly in size, only requires 3 teachers going forward, can you explain what your change in assessment was from your proposed budget last year to your proposed budget this year?
And so I appreciate that. So this is comment period. So I'm getting from your comment sort of the intention of that, and that's something that I think you guys can connect with offline. Thank you. All right. Is there any further comments this evening? No? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close that. Any other business, old business of the board?
But can you forward to Neil what they need for tomorrow night? Because they don't have any of it yet.
Okay.
So the PowerPoint presentation, the draft of the warrants, and then the monthly financial and the quarterly?
Can we connect tomorrow on that?
Yeah, I'll do it remotely because I'll be at Health Trust for a bit in the morning.
I'll just-
And so
Because you
I'll,
have some of it and I have some of it. so-
well, yeah, and I have to finish the
Okay.
budget bulletin
We'll send it.
that I'll be, but yeah, which the budget bulletin will have the warrants in it.
Okay.
But if we don't need, they don't need the budget bulletin, they just need the PowerPoint that we saw tonight. Correct?
I guess, I just usually,
I would just send the
I usually
PowerPoint.
give the warrant, I mean, I usually give,
We'll
yeah.
just send the warrants too. I'll connect with Neil. Let me connect with Neil.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need the full budget bulletin for tomorrow night. I think that's just gonna create more information than what I
Okay.
wanna talk about.
Yeah.
So if we just use the PowerPoint and the warrants so that we can kind of go through and have them more likely than not, that's really the only issue on the warrants beyond the budget, that would be good.
No problem.
Save me figuring out how to do that.
That works. All right, anything else? No?
No?
We do have a need for
I
non-public,
need 5
very
minutes.
brief, very brief. All right, so we do have a need for non-public this evening. It will be brief, and then after that, we will be adjourning and ending all business. So is there a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3A for personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? It's a roll call vote. Rob?
Yes.
Yes. Norm, yes.
Yes.
Yes. And as I said, motion carries. We will be coming out of non-public and going straight home.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
don't want to go straight.